Spoken there. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Cape Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house. We're on Zoom again today, and we're down to London. Now, got a lovely lady on today, Kate Wilson, who I owe a big thank you to Hannah Kate for, because I heard her on Hannah Kate's programme, Hannah's Bookshelf, which is like a Manchester radio poetry show recently, and I've blown away with her material. And I actually emailed Hannah to say, wow. And then Hannah said, oh yeah, contact Kate through this if you want to bring on your Spoken Label podcast. And Kate didn't know that I'm speaking to today because Hannah was really praising us. So, Kate, first of all, seriously, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them who you are, where you originally come from, because I know you don't live there now, and where you are now, and we'll start from there.
Thanks, Andy, and thank you very much for all your kind words about my recording. So yes, my name's Kate Wilson. I'm originally from Oxfordshire, and I've been writing since I was a teenager. Obviously, it started off being very angsty, and I kind of jokingly say that I'm now an angsty adult writing poetry.
I like that.
Well, I did some writing when I was doing my master's at Exeter in English. I did a few poetry writing modules at the time, but I had quite a long time of not writing, and I've recently got back into it.
Right. So that's interesting, that really, because I know some people who do university degrees and masters. They just seem to carry straight on. Because I was like that. I did my degree in it at Bolton Uni about 20 years ago, and I had a lull for a year or two afterwards. But then when I got into it, it's never stopped. And Amanda, my partner, as I said before, she's done a master's in the year in creative writing, and she seems just going absolutely like crazy at the minute. I take it then when you finished your uni originally, then did you not think you'd go back to your writing then, did you?
I did. It was interesting because I worked for an arts charity for a while straight out of university, and I did a lot of stuff like literature projects, kind of being involved in things like Exeter Poetry Festival and Plymouth Book Festival, and I kind of think that was almost bad for my creativity because I was around a lot of really amazing writers, and possibly at that time I didn't necessarily think I kind of lived up to them. So it kind of put me off in a weird way.
I think it does sometimes. There's a danger of that because I know exactly what you mean there. When I left uni, I think I burnt myself out, and I'd seen so many good poets and stuff, and I thought to myself, I'm not at that level. I don't think I ever would be. But then I think you find a breakthrough later on, don't you? Sometimes it might just mean you may not have been ready for it at that time. So you said you got back into your writing relatively recently, didn't you? Then so. Tell us about that then. What led you back to your writing?
So it's not like I've totally given up on writing. So I've lived in London for about 6.5 years now. And during that time, I would occasionally do like a course with the poetry school, and I'd get really involved in my writing again, but it would be for a short period of time, like a couple of months. And then life would just take over again. And it was really at the end of 2019. I don't really know why, but I just kind of challenged myself. I was like, okay, it's November, National Novel Writing Month. Well, I'm going to make it National Poetry Writing Month for myself, and I'm going to try and write something every single day. And I just kind of completely rediscovered why I loved writing poetry again, and it just got me back into it. And from there, I just started to read more poetry and become more involved in, like, just with a poetry group in London and things like that. And it just spiraled from there, really.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression, isn't it? So like you said, that's what's clearly happened to you there. So, and like you said, then you're probably like, of you, I think good if you get a good group, and you tell me if you agree with this, when you're in a good group, you can really find it pushes you, doesn't it, to make you challenging. You come back to better writer because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really enjoyed being part of the poetry group, and actually during the pandemic, it's been a real lifeline because we've obviously continued to do our meetings remotely, and we used to only meet once a month, but we've been meeting twice a month, and it's been just really nice to stay connected to that community.
Yeah, I think it does because I think if you get a good group like that, I think a lot of ways. I presume you meet on Zoom, do you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Zoom's been a godsend. I think as everybody, I'm sure in the country would agree with us on that because it's like I could say before I co-run an I to do it myself with my partner Amanda and my friend Steve, and we moved it onto Zoom straight away. And then I ended up. This will make you smile. I agreed to do a one-off writing workshop in March. And 15 months later, we're still going on, meeting up fortnightly. It wasn't planned. But I've got like 15 years experience teaching writing, so it's been a pleasure getting back to that. But you know what I mean? It's interesting Zoom, isn't it? So now, have you found the experience of being on Zoom then?
It's been okay. I mean, I think there's no pressure in our group to necessarily have your video on, and I must admit that I'm quite often kind of in my pajamas on a Sunday morning without my video on, joining the poetry group.
I like it.
Yeah, but it's been really nice, and I think, you know, like a lot of these things, it hasn't just been about the writing, it's also been about staying connected to people and, you know, sharing your own experience of the craziness over the last year.
Oh yeah, completely. I know what you mean. Now I want to go back a bit in time here because I'm doing this in a very roundabout way tonight. I'm interested in, obviously, you told me before you used to write all the angst teenage poems, didn't you, when you were younger? Where did all that originally come from then? Was it like the typical teenage emotions, or was it all getting spurred on when you were at school, was it?
Yeah, I was always, like, English was always my favourite subject at school, and I think that I did begin to become a lot more interested in poetry as a result of what I was doing at school. For example, I got really into Philip Larkin, which we'll link into something later.
Right. Now that does answer a question now, but we will come on to that later, then definitely. So, yeah, no, definitely. So, was there any other poets you really got into at that time? Then was it as well that really grabbed you?
I can't really think of any at the moment. I remember just becoming very obsessive about Philip Larkin's poetry for a while, and that obsession kind of carried on into university as well. And I'm quite a big fan. I think I've really become more of a dedicated poetry reader in very recent years. So I probably previously didn't read enough to be a good writer, and whereas now hopefully I do read enough.
I think you do like it. I think to take it, and do you agree in the theory? I think Amanda's always used this one. Stephen King quoted, "To be a good writer, you've got to read at least as much as what you write."
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I would say that one of the things that really stood out to me, so when I was writing my pamphlet One Night in January, which came out at the start of this year, it was very much at the start of the first lockdown. And the thing that was different about that period of writing was that I was also reading a huge amount of poetry by lots of different writers. And I think that I just found that in itself was very inspiring, just to hear these different voices and kind of, you know, just be inspired by them, really.
Yeah. Now, obviously, very cunningly leads into what I was going to talk to you about next. Actually, that was. Now, everyone notices the links we're doing today is meticulously planned. If my standards is obviously One Night in January, your debut pamphlet, which you sent to me recently. Now, you said before that was started to write at the beginning of the lockdown, then, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So, what made you want to actually it's almost like your lockdown poems then, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how long did it take to write the collection? Was it quite a brief one to write then, was it? Or did it take a while, this?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the thing is, when I first started writing the poems that ended up in this pamphlet, I didn't think that I was like embarking on a writing project. Really, I was just writing because it is based on personal experience, as might be quite evident. Like, it's a telling of a kind of love affair, a love story which doesn't have the chance to kind of blossom into anything because it's very much, two passing ships in the night kind of thing.
I was wondering about that myself. It did feel that sort of thing. There was definitely that. It kind of reminded me of Billy's Rain by Hugo Williams in some way. The tale of the beginnings and the lead right up to almost at the end of a relationship. So was that the plot? Obviously, I'm not going to ask you how true to life that was, because that's none of my business. But,
that was kind of the inspiration, was from real life, and I was just writing these poems. And I started writing them. I probably did start writing them a little bit before lockdown, but only maybe one or two. And I think then the pandemic and the fact that I live on my own and suddenly had a lot more time on my hands, I thought, well, I might as well just carry on writing. And then it wasn't really until maybe April. So I was kind of writing quite consistently in March and April with most of the poems that have been written. And then I started to think, actually, I'm writing all these poems on one theme, so it makes sense to start to think of them as a collection that I might be able to get published. Because obviously, like, one of my aspirations was to get something published, like a body of work. So yeah, that it started to take a bit more shape then.
Right, because I can tell it when I'm reading it, and I've been reading it a bit over the past week or so, and you can tell when we read it, it really is a well-wrote collection. In fact, it's where it feels like you're telling chapters of story and poems. There's that attention to detail that you don't always see in collections. That is a really good collection. So now, obviously, you were hinting before about Philip Larkin. Now, there is a quote from Philip Larkin right at the beginning of the collection. Can you tell us what made you want to put that there at the beginning of the quote then?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved this quote from one of his poems, and I can't even remember which poem it is, which is terrible. But I think it was about this feeling that, you're kind of done with being sad about something. You're done with the heartache, and you just kind of want to move on and let yourself, like, free yourself from those emotions. And I guess I didn't necessarily think I was going to include this at the beginning until I'd finished writing it. And then I thought, well, that's kind of what I wanted to convey. It's like, you can have some beautiful moments and maybe they will cause you some pain, but actually, can you just go forward and take some hope from having had that experience?
Yeah, I got that straight away. And I thought it was a great way of starting the collection off. That really, I really added a nice emphasis to me in it. Now, I did ask you before, pre-camera, I just spotted another writer's name on there as well. So I'm going to ask you about these two now. What made you want to reference Cameron Awkward Rich? And it's Gwendolyn Brooks, is it? Have I got that pronounced right?
Yeah, Gwendolyn Brooks, yeah. Well, this is just me not plagiarizing people, but obviously reading some good poems and being inspired by them. Like I said to you, I was reading lots of different writers at the time, and these happened to be two of the poets whose work I was looking at. And I think sometimes if I'm not sure what I want to write, I might kind of think, I'll just take the start of someone else's poem and kind of see where it goes. And that's certainly like how the poem based on that Cameron Awkward Rich poem kind of came about, was from this line, there are so many reasons to stay inside. And that kind of resonated with me quite strongly, because we were literally all staying inside, but there was also this feeling of the emotions being quite contained and not really knowing what to do with them. So that was that one. And then the other poem, Dual Aspect, is kind of pinches a few last lines from a Gwendolyn Brooks poem, and it's just playing around, like poems that I was experimenting with, and then I liked them enough for them to come into the collection, basically. But I wanted to obviously reference the fact that there was kind of a dialogue with some of those writers.
Right, explains why. Yeah, because like if you read the poems in question, you can see, because I've researched both of where writers were, and you can see that what it's cleverly wrote way. It's your voice, but you've used the other bits as like almost like you're putting a roof on a house, haven't you? And that's like the base at the bottom, and haven't you built over the top of it, haven't you? Words.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's because I particularly liked a poem that I have read by them, and it kind of sparked an idea that's kind of where it's come from.
Brilliant. Oh, good luck with it, definitely. So, and when did the collection come out again? It came out a little while ago, he said. Am I correct in thinking that, didn't it?
Yeah, so it got accepted for publication in like the summer last year, and then it was published in January because my publishers thought that releasing a book called One Night in January might be quite good timing.
I was just going to ask you about that next, actually. I was wondering about where the title came from. So was the title actually always in your mind to be calling it that, was it?
No, it wasn't, but it is a line in one of the poems, I think.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think it's a title one of the poems, if my memory's correct, as well.
Oh, there is definitely reference to January. So I guess it was that some of the events that inspired the poems were happening at the end of January, this kind of winter period. And I'd also been to Iceland last January as well, which is why there's some Iceland kind of references too.
Oh, why not? Why not? Right.
Yeah,
it's like, no, it does, for the book, does have a very, very wintry feel, certainly in good chunks of it, certainly. So, yeah, I do agree with that. Oh, excellent. Okay, now, I know obviously we're going to start wrapping up now, but obviously I always like to ask people, what plans do you have next for your writing? Because I know you're going to be sharing some new stuff with us in the second half, aren't you? So that says to me then you must have either have a second collection in mind or you're working on new material, aren't you then?
Yes, so I am working on something new, and I kind of started working on it in like autumn, winter last year. So basically I'm hoping to put together a collection of poems which is focused on the paintings of Vincent van Gogh.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of, the poems are kind of turned out to be like almost love letters to the artist in a way. But it's also tied up with like, you know, a narrative from the poet as well. So, you know, I would expect there to be a strong current of like personal experience running through it as well. It's hard to say too much about it at the moment because although I have written quite a lot, I'm not sure what the shape's going to be just yet. I am hoping to read one from my draft after the break. Yeah.
Brilliant. I look forward to hearing that in a few minutes, and definitely. No, obviously, I could obviously ask you then, obviously, you said to get the shape together. But have you found then, because I've done 2 books myself over the years, each book is its own different beast. And it's like, I think you learn each book also has a reaction to the previous collection. So have you found that, have you? And it's because you're writing letters to a different artist almost. The life is almost a different, isn't it? It goes in a different direction, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's the paintings have really kind of opened up this whole new kind of land of color and, you know, summer and sunflowers and all the kind of things that you associated with Van Gogh. And I think that it's kind of almost let me get a little bit away from what I might usually write into a different plane.
No, brilliant. No, definitely so. Yeah. I think it's good that, like I said, I look forward to seeing it, definitely so. Keep us informed. Definitely. Now, okay, to conclude this part, Kate, if people want to find out more about you, where are they best going?
So I have a website. It's www.katejwilson.com. But the best place to kind of find out what I'm doing is probably on Twitter. So you can follow me again at katejwilson213. And if you want to buy my book, you can go to the Wildpressbooks website, or you can find it now on Amazon for $1.99 on Kindle. It's recently come out. So
excellent.
It's a real bargain.
Oh, you can't fault that for $1.99. You're telling me, yeah, this shows organised by our Unspoken Library. Kate told me this by email last week. She wants to mention it's $1.99 and that Kindle. I didn't know about that. And I thought until you told me, didn't I? thought, excellent. No, it's a bargain that. Because like you feel like you're reading like a novel to me, and what isn't about 40 odd pages in your collection, really, isn't it? So that's where it shows you how much details in it. So excellent. Check it out, everybody, for £1.99, definitely. Right, okay, guys and girls. Well, that's all me and Kate are going to talk about today. We'll let her get composed, and she's going to do a few poems just in the second half. So hang around, everybody. I've enjoyed it today, Kate. It's been a good start. There's definitely so.
Thank you.
I'll see you in a minute.
Spoken Label.
Hi, guys. I'm still here with Kate. She's going to do a selection of poems for us today, some from her collection and some more recent material. So I'm looking forward to this. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Andy. So I was going to start with a few poems from my collection One Night in January. The first one I'm going to read is called Mount Esja. I compose a shot, but it doesn't capture my fallen jaw, awed across this other world. Though I hold my breath, eyes fixed on distance, skewed, a trick of perspective. I don't see the significance, or hear feather on feather, something unfurling its wings at the sound of lava. Its flow foreshadows an earth swell within me, as though ages of rock might suddenly crack open to reveal a fire creature I thought I'd buried better, with long ago love letters poured in adolescence. But we've yet to meet, so I dismiss this distant shudder, steady myself, smile for the camera, stare a little longer.
It's a fantastic start there, because it's got, if anyone reads the collection, it's great. So I've got it opened up as a PDF at the moment in front of me here, but there's some really great lines in this. I just love the line where a fire creature I thought I'd buried better. It's a great line when you do the contrast with the long ago love letters poured in adolescence. So it shows the time period looking back. Was that the plan? Was it at that point? That point was it? Because if you look at the collection, it's a very early one, isn't it? In the story.
Yeah. So I kind of wrote that later, so it did kind of feel like you were looking back.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a really good piece, that. Okay. On to number 2.
America. Is it madness we feel when we kiss under Van Gogh stars? Lip press in strokes of yellow, immediate demented blue. It feels like I'm back in New York, a blue-eyed idealist chasing taxi cabs, attempting to write, giving up to hedonistic nights. Circle-drawn eyes shaded, in morning sun I amble to MoMA, to stare in unexpected wonder at a product of dazzling suffering. It was winter then, snow packed high against roadsides to hide grimy streets, though when the thaw came it would be brutal. And I wonder if the same is true of you, my candy sweetheart, with your lilting American charm, who kisses like a man possessed. If, beneath this starry night, there is a sketch in black and white that outlines charcoaled edges, the candid nature of things.
I've got to unmute myself. No, it's got really good lines. I like the ending of that, where you've got about outlines, charcoal edges, the candid nature of things. It gives it real starkness there. Now, what I like about this as well is obviously you've gone on before, but I love the reference to Van Gogh at the beginning of it. So it's almost like shows to people like there's a tender little link in this and your second collection, and possibly, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of my favourite artists. I know I'm probably not alone. So, yeah.
Oh, great stuff. Okay, on to number 3.
Yearning. I look up a definition, the experience of intense longing for something one is separated from. I wonder at how simply this expresses a feeling I can only describe as cataclysmic. Its length and breadth leave no space for pause or breath. Lungfuls of you in mooned hours, crestfallen light sharpening my pillow, where you laid your head while I pulled at threads of your hair, teased those whispers of silver. When I couldn't believe days without your smile creased against my cheek, flushed at your proximity, had ever existed. Where time before you blanched, colourless hours until an unexpected rush, a collection of stars discovered one night in January, flecks of light I stowed in my pocket, As the white moon falls across my wanting face, I feel the weight of these keepsakes.
That's quite a stirring piece, that one as well. Yeah, I love the reference to that. You can see, you can really feel winter in that peach can, and it's not even talking about January on it as well. So, I take it then that I can ask you before about the previous piece about America. Also, have you actually been to America then? Have you?
Yes, I have. Yes, I was kind of thinking about a very icy snowy trip I took to New York quite a few years ago now.
Yeah, I'm always a believer as a poet, and this one I think shows this yearning as well. Is you always say you've got, even if you're actually telling a story, there's got to be some element of you in that poem. And what do you think? What do you think to that theory?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the reasons I sometimes find it a bit challenging to share some of my work is that it does feel very personal to me, and it is often quite grounded in my own personal experience. So it can be feel a bit like you're exposing yourself, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think you do. It's got to be something naked honesty in it. And I really felt it in that piece then as well, certainly. So brilliant. Okay, then. I think you were going to do one more, weren't you, from this collection, weren't you?
Yeah. So this one's called Anecdote. Hours bled out to nights where you slept in unfamiliar beds, felt for one timorous second home might be possible again. And it might be envy I felt after you left, at how you picked up your hat, your heart, leaving packed up cares to gather dust, clustered in a muted hallway with mine, where you don't have to think of them, or me, on the open road where each turn is a phrase of a song composed, and London is a place you visited once, another blue spot on your map ticked off, hung on your wall to point to at parties, while travel tales slide off your tongue, and I'm just another anecdote.
Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, okay. There's not a hint of bitterness there, really, is there?
Just maybe a tiny bit.
The hatred there, definitely. Is that the last line? Brilliant. I've really enjoyed them. They're fantastic. Okay, well, you said you wanted to do a couple of one or two pieces from your forthcoming material, didn't you?
I was going to do one from my forthcoming material and one just other.
Brilliant.
Just
Brilliant. Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
Okay. So I'll start off with the Van Gogh themed one. So this one's called Sunflowers. Your flowers, giants of canvas, their faces apertures through which the child travelled, glimpsing all she'd ever know of passion. Fervour in foreshadowed summers where the sunlight felt its way into corners, illuminating the clash of artist and imitator. I was an infant when I first saw them, modelling pastiche in lime pastels which smeared my skin, unforgiving. Yellow wound in circles that swallowed shape and similarity, curving irreverently until the whole thing was barely familiar. Later, sunflowers from my grandmother, sun-bleached through years of exposure to longing, hung there, reminding me of my own ragged masterpiece, discarded in a cupboard in the family home, protected from wandering fingers of light. And after it was over, standing in Amsterdam with a camera phone, picturing them through a short lens, the intimate feel of your brush, the lushness of gallery light as it rushed through me, escalating heat of July, this brilliant blooming behind glass.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a very different tone actually to your other material there straight away. I think it'll be. I think as well as before, but you find out when you're doing your collection, each one's different to each other. And that's going to be, I think the emotional impact is going in a different way in this one. Yeah, excellent. Really good stuff.
Glad you enjoyed that.
Hey, you're onto your big finale. If I ever had a trumpet now, I'd play a trumpet now for you to give you the big finale. But I know you do something completely different now to conclude with, aren't you?
Yeah, so this is actually a really old poem. And it's inspired by Lip. So I'm just going to launch in, if that's okay. So it's called Lessons. It revealed itself one night on the edge of sleep, a visitation, a memory flimsy at first, but finding form under a crescent moon. Without a breath, the night evaporated, replaced by a drifting mist from another night, one that clung unseenly, like the fear, new to me then, I discovered upon waking my childhood bed and asking the unfixed sky for certainty, for an answer to a question as yet unknown to my childish lips. There was no reply. And I felt a knife point, the precipice, the one on which I would forever falter, though I did not know it then, the one on which the known world hung, wavering, and I thought only of my grandmother and her weakened hands, thin fingers faltering as she offered me her treasure, a bracelet, a ring, a collection of grey photographs. And though it was her life I held in my hands, I could not find the joy in it. I was, you must know, confronting a misty vision in battle with that abject figure who sought to steal away my belief in something more, perhaps love. No, more a certain kind of immortality, earned in the daily toil of parenthood, fish-finger dinners and names sewn with care into new school uniforms, teaching painting to the next generation, those tots untouched by pain, printing potato shapes and praising our creation. I had neither the tools nor the experience to win. Once we had spent unending mornings together, while your dogs ran circles around us, fetching and catching our dreams on the wide green lawns of my youth, swinging so high I thought I might go flying over the bars, but you were always behind me, until that summer when I was told you were dying. It would be a slow death, a weakening of the body, my spirit worn away by the rough-edged certainty of what we were waiting for. The memory ceased. I was in bed, edging sun like the slow birth of a new dream. My eyes rested on a watercolour you painted, a sweet rose dawn over Cotswold fields, and I thought of those unbearable lessons we must all sit down to.
Great stuff for that one. So what plans do you have with that piece then? Do you envisage that be possibly in some collection in the future or something? Or
This is one that I repeatedly send out, hoping that someone's going to publish it.
and we're listening, snap it up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, again, I've got pieces like that where you can send them out for ages, can't you? But then but I'll be honest now, I've had it before now when I've sent a piece out. It took 2 years to get it placed. And then I have 2 offers that come through in 2 days. That's fine. But no, brilliant, Kate. It's been a pleasure today. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great fun. Okay, hang around. I need to speak to you off mic anyway. But as Don Callis says of Impact Wrestling, everybody, stay safe and stay over. We'll see you all soon.
Spoken Mate.